Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is the World Council. The World Council is a card game in which each person is going to be controlling their homeland, and they're going to be trying to make sure that their homeland achieves a certain objective that is different from everybody else, without letting the world fall into chaos and be destroyed, whether it because of famine, or because of global warming, or world war, or what have you. It is a very fast-paced, quick game that can handle up to 6 players, and handle up to 6 players very well. And it has a wonderful theme that I really felt engaged to. So let me show you how the game is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. And here we have the World Council, in which each person is going to be playing a leader of the shadow government, the government beyond the government, if you will, that pulls the strings of the rest of the world and makes it dance to their delight. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, so each person is going to be getting one of these cards to begin the game. That card is going to designate what type of country that you're controlling, whether it is a superpower, a totalitarian state, an island nation, that kind of thing. I'll explain that in just a little bit, and all of this stuff. I'm just going to give you a quick overview, then I'll show you how the game is played. There are these 4 cards here. These are the Doomsday Indexes. Depending upon the number of players, you can't let the index get to a certain level, or else the game immediately ends and nobody wins. With 5 or 6 players, the index is 20. With less, it is 15. If you increase those, you're just going to be placing these Doomsday tokens on the cards, and if it reaches that index, the game just ends. There isn't like a last-minute try to prevent it from happening. It just ends. Each person gets 3 of these little land tokens. That's to designate when they're building buildings. And also that kind of prevents people from building a lot of buildings all at once, because you have to have, if the building requires a land token, you have to have one available. You get your land tokens back when you use the buildings that you've created for the resources that they generate. You trash the building and then you get your token back, so then you can build another building later. More on that in just a little bit. Finally, there are these 3 cards in the middle, 3 decks of cards here in the middle. They are the resources. There is food, there is water, and there is energy. People are going to be drawing the cards from those decks as needed when they're instructed to by the game, or the cards they drew or whatever, just as you draw them. You get to pick which deck you're drawing from, and you always draw cards one at a time. So if you were drawing 2 cards, you could draw a water. If it isn't the water card you want, you could draw another water card. If it is the water card you wanted, then you could, like, say, go to energy or what have you. So just keep that in mind. I should mention that the cards themselves have the backs, and the backs everybody sees because you see the cards. But that is the resource that they generate if you trash the card. That is a very, very big part of this game. You're going to be spending cards as resources, and I always like games that do this, because you might have cards that you really think might be useful, but you need to trash them so you can do something else. And so you're kind of, you're burning up the resources that you have available to you for like a greater goal. And it makes for tough decisions, something I really enjoy. But whenever you trash a card for that purpose, like, you take and you trash one of these, you're going to add, depending upon what type of resource it is, you're going to add a Doomsday token to one of these 4 cards. If you trash water, obviously the drought index goes up. If you trash food, the starvation index goes up. And if you trash energy, the global warming index goes up. Now, you might have noticed that, as I said, there's this card over here, the World War Index. You might ask, well, how does that go up? There are lots of different action cards that target other players, that will actually be used to hurt them. But when you do them, you increase the tension of the world, and so then you're actually increasing the World War Index as well, because of, obviously, if you it's a steam pot, if you will, eventually it's going to boil over, and then something bad's going to happen, and the world will end. So, beginning the game, each person is going to get one of these cards. And this is given out randomly, and everybody sees this. So you get a superpower. Your goal to win the game is prevent World War Index reach 15, develop missile defense system, military base. You pull it off. Here's a developed country. Build up 2 renewable power or water supply facilities. And if you do that, then you win. Now you might be saying, well, geez, that seems easier than this. Well, depending upon, like, superpower, they start with 5 cards in their hand. But other nations can start with as little as 1 card in their hand to begin with. When you draw your cards, you'll be drawing them one at a time at the beginning of the game as well, just like any other time that you're drawing cards. So, on your turn, what's going to happen is the first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw cards. At the end of your hand, end of your turn, you have to be down below 8 or less cards, because that is the hand limit. If you aren't, then you have to go ahead and discard cards until you do. After you draw cards, you can propose a trade with one other player. You can say, I'll trade you this card for that card. And if they say yes, then you go ahead and you make the trade for the card. If they don't agree, then you skip that trade phase and then you move forward. Then the next part is when you're going to take your actions. You're going to play cards from your hand, whether it's playing action cards or building buildings in front of you, and you get to play as many cards as you want. There's no limit to the number of actions. You just can burn through your cards as you see fit. I'll explain the cards here in just a little bit. But after that is done, then you go ahead and just pass the turn to the next player, and that next player then takes those actions and does the exact same thing as you did. Pretty simple. You just keep playing until one person completes their objective, and then at that point, they're in the moment where they can win. And so what happens is that everybody gets one more turn trying to stop that player from winning. And if they can do that, then the play continues until somebody actually does claim the win and manage to keep the win as it goes around. All right, so I'm going to just take some cards here off the top of the water deck here, and I'm just going to show you, for example, these different cards that you have. So this is a building card, and so it's university, and the upper right or upper left here, I should say, has, so you don't have to turn the card around and look at it and show everybody what card you have. You know this is a water card, so you can spend it as a resource to spend and trash it as water. Now, down below here, you can see this little symbol here, and that is technology. And so basically, this card can generate 2 technology resources for you, but you first have to build it in order to succeed. And so down here, you can see if you trash 2 food cards and you use up one of your land tokens, you can build this university. So if you did that, you'd go ahead and place that down like so, and you place one of your land tokens on it like so to show that you've used up one of your land tokens. Now, if I had burned 2 food cards to do that, I would unfortunately have to go ahead and place 2 of these food things over here on the starvation index, pushing us towards the possibility of ending the world because of massive world hunger. Now, if I had a building that could create food for me, I could trash that building and then not actually add any tokens to the index that is designated. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but this is where you kind of it's weird. You have to build your country up, so to speak, and before you can actually use some of the bigger and better cards that you have available. Now, so for example, here you have solar power plant. This one will create 3 energy for me. And I had to spend 2 land, but land is renewable. Remember, if I trash this university, I get to go ahead and move my land back over, and I can use it again. So in this case, if I had that university and it's sitting there, and it can create 2 technology, and notice that this costs a technology to make, and it cost me 2 land. So I could then, by playing this, I could go ahead and take these 2 lands and put them over here. I trashed the university to create that technology, put that in the discard pile, and now I've gone ahead and created this solar power plant that I can then, theoretically at some point in the future destroy for the 3 energy that it's going to generate. And that's 3 energy cards I don't have to discard and add 3 to the global warming deck over here. So that's how those things kind of, link together and what you're trying to do. And remember, you can build these on the same turn. You could build the university, build it up, and then play the next one and trash it immediately just to go to the next level. Those types of things. So, and just one last example. So you could, because remember that built 2 technology, you could do both of these at the same time because you created 2 technology. This one takes 1 technology as well. It's going to create you 2. It's a sewage treatment facility. And then you could play both of those cards, get the 2 technology out of that, and now you'd have those 2 buildings built. You'd have, 2 water and 3 energy available to you to be used on later turns. Pretty cool. And I purposely kind of set that up. But I mean, that's kind of the way you link all those things together. All right, so just I want to show you a couple action cards quickly so you can see what these do. So like action cards, once again, they kind of tell you, what it's a water card. So if I wanted to burn this as energy, I could burn it as water. Once again, if you burn it as water, though, I have to add to the indexes. But you can see propaganda. So it says here, take away 2 cards from another country. So that seems pretty cool. I get to take 2 cards from you. I can see the backs of your cards. So if I really needed some energy cards, I could go ahead and take those from you if you had them. And then, but you notice that here we have this nuclear cloud, and because it's propaganda, it increases the tension of the world. If I played it, I would have to add a doomsday token to the World War Index, possibly pushing us towards the end of the world. And so one last thing here. So here's a card that actually doesn't cost you anything. It's an action card that doesn't cost you anything to use, and it actually works very well. Cheap foreign students can be treated as a payment of additional technology. And so you could go ahead and play this card if you wanted to, instead of burning, instead of like destroying one of your buildings for technology, or if maybe you hadn't created a technology building yet, and you wanted to build the sewage treatment facilities, you could use this instead to do that. So there are tons of different cards of all kinds of things like that, things that they're going to be using to attack other players. There's even like tactical strikes, if you will, like here, obviously, like so here, capture one land from another country and break the global supply chain between you and your target if you have a greater firepower. Firepower is like technology. It is a resource that you create. And here, I'll show you one of them. So like here you have a military base. And so and you notice there's that little tank there. That's the firepower. Firepower and technology and technically land are resources that you have to create through cards, or you just get those 3 tokens to begin with as far as land goes. And so it exists, but it isn't created actually by using, these cards. You can't replace them with cards, if you will. You can only create those technologies by burning those buildings. Now remember, one very important thing is that if I wanted to turn this in for the 3 energy, I have to trash this particular building. So I have to trash that, and I get my land back for that process. So just keep that in mind. You don't keep the buildings. The buildings recycle pretty quickly as far as this game goes. And then what was the other card? Oh, so the global supply chain. I did want to show this. So building up a supply chain with another country, unfair trading policies make you force the person to trade 1 card with that country each turn. Remember what I said about trading the cards? You can, hey, I want to trade this card for this card. You can't technically do that if they say no, but with this one, you totally can. You can say, give me a food card, and I'm going to give you this, and they have to do that. And you can see, by doing it, it actually increases the global warming index if you use this card. So, one of those kind of cool things, it just everything's usually got a repercussion. If you actually are able to take an action without actually having negative things happen, it's always kind of nice. But usually, it's just always weighing your options. Is it worth it to kind of push the world towards the end to get this card play? Yeah, maybe it is. And that's one of those tough decisions and those fun little game moments happen that I really enjoy. But let me talk more about that in my final thoughts. I'll do that, right now. Alright, thank you very much for taking the time to learn how to play the World Council. So, what did I think of it? Well, if you watched my introduction, you already said I felt really engaged in the theme, and that's probably because of the fact that everything seemed to make sense. It's like that propaganda card I just showed you. Yeah, okay, so the whole idea is that you have this propaganda, towards, some country or whatever. You're saying that this superpower is a big bully, and they're just, shoving the rest of the world around and using their position of power to keep all the rest of us down or whatever. You just, whatever, spam some rhetoric, if you will. But mind you, when we played the game, we definitely tried to just kind of embolden that a little bit, as far as having it's we're the big superpower, and I'm the little island country. We kind of, and it added to the fun. You don't have to do that, obviously, but I'm in a gaming group that we're very expressive when we play. So, but anyway, I'll get back to that in just a second. But so the whole idea is that the propaganda, you create world tension by that, right? You're making people like rethink their position on that particular country and whether or not, you know, they do have the world's best interests, if you will. And so, yes, it's like maybe an imperceptible degree, if you will, but just like the doomsday clock, you know, that they keep. I mean, it's a very, very slight fraction. It's you know, causing a little more heat to happen, you know, and in the case of like global warming, actual heat, if you will. But, you know, so the game itself, like, just, it makes sense, right? The cards make sense. There's no disconnect between my actions and the buildings that I have and what they actually give me and what they can actually do. And I really like that aspect of the game. Now, you could, you know, strip mine the theme straight out of this and just have a bunch of symbols and nothing would really connect, and it would still play. But, I mean, obviously, this is one of those instances where, yes, this is kind of a Euro strategy game. This isn't, you know, technically, in my opinion, this is not a thematic game, if you will. But if you took the theme out of this, I don't think it would be as much fun. And I really can't think of a theme that you could implant into this that it would still be as enjoyable. So there you go. I mean, that was the big thing for me right away. I mean, the game itself, I've definitely played games like this before. I mean, but they're hitting the things that I really, really like. I like the ease of being able to teach it. I mean, you know, the fact that like each person's turn is handled really, really quickly. I like the fact that each person's objective, ostensibly, yes, I mean, there are, like, you could have like 2 developing countries. So like, yes, you know, they you know, there are, you do get a bunch of these cards. So like, here, let me just see here. So you could have like, you know, 2 of these developing countries, and or developed countries, and you could have 2 of these developing countries, if you will, and you know, and there are 2 of these island countries as well. So, you know, those, admittedly, yes, will have the same object, you know, to try to win, but you know, but enough players are going to have a different goal, so it isn't everybody running to the same thing. And I also really like the whole idea that you have to leverage the actions that you take, you know, because yes, theoretically, you could have a person, and this is one of those problems that you can have, and it's a delicate balance to have, and I do think the World Council does this very well. You do run the risk of somebody, you know, if you're playing with somebody that's, you know, just going to be like, I can't win, so I'm just going to end the world, you know. I mean, okay, yes, that can happen, and I guess the defense against that would be that, you know, you don't want to like play with that kind of person. But what I've decided was actually more important was that you need to make sure that you don't put yourself in the position where that person has the ability to do that. I mean, like, you can't, like, if you're getting close to winning the game, you can't put, like, one of the Doomsday Index bars, like, just underneath the end of the world. I mean, you're just asking for somebody to do that. And because of the fact that you have some semblance of control over that situation, I do feel like the game kind of auto-corrects itself in a weird way. I mean, yes, the first time we played the game, we kind of played it, you know, haphazardly, if you will, you know, burning through cards and not really knowing what we're doing. And that's like, we played, you know, a few games right away at the very beginning where nobody was winning. We were like destroying the world because we were just being very foolhardy. But once we kind of learned the game, we learned the cards, and we learned like what they would do and what we could expect, that's when we started kind of, as I said, leveraging our choices, you know, just like making sure that, yeah, okay, I think we can burn 1 water here. We can deal with the drought index going up by 1 here. So we had those situations going on. And all in all, I mean, like I said, it's a combination of theme, it's a combination of, and the other thing I really like, the cards being the resources. I've always liked that in games, like, because of the fact that, like, wow, I really like this card, but it's food, and I really need to use a food right now. So, I mean, I like that aspect of the game as well. So, combine mechanisms I like, combine a theme that kind of grabbed me, and then combine, you know, the tough choices element. And I really, really enjoyed myself when I was playing the World Council. There you go. So if you have any questions about it, ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.